Wait for it. Am I in focus? Oh, let's hope so. Hello! It's very hot in this thing, but if you know, you know. You know what time it is. Do I even gotta say? I'm gonna talk about some books on my shelf, and I'm also going to take off the ceremonial red blanket hoodie snuggie thing, which is very delightful to wear in Southern California in the wintertime, but not in August, which it is now. So I am going to, I don't ever do book haul videos. I do occasionally like to post pictures of books maybe that I picked up on Instagram, so there will be some repeats from my Instagram. Some of these books I have read or am reading, but since I don't do book hauls at all, I thought I'd do like a 2022 book hauls. This is not a comprehensive book haul of everything I've gotten this calendar year, and obviously there's still 5 months to go, but there are, I don't know, at least a dozen different books that I picked out. So I'm gonna start with something I kind of alluded to in one of my Dublin vlogs, but I got 3 different Gilbert Sorrentino books, and they were all like $3 or €3, 3 quid. Is it quid if you're in Ireland, or is that only a British thing? Irish people, sound off in the comments. Irish dollary dues? That's probably Australia. So the first one is Blue Pastoral, and this was, you know, kind of the only other Sorrentino. I have a copy of Mulligan Stew. It's back there on that one. And that's really the Sorrentino that I want to read. This is the other one that looks kind of especially humorous and funny to me. It's about a guy who like takes his family on like a cross-country American tour and puts a piano on top of a cart and is searching for the perfect musical phrase. And like, whatever. I'm in right there. The other 2 books I don't know that much about. The first one, or the second one, is called Crystal Vision, and this is, I think it's about 78 short narratives about different characters in like a Brooklyn neighborhood. So it seems like it's kind of, what's that Kuno book, Exercises in Style or something, where it's like the same stories but told 100 different ways, meets like Winesburg, Ohio or something. So kaleidoscopic seems interesting, but you know, these 2 mostly on a lark. This one apparently, so this is Pack of Lies, and it's a trio of novels, and the first 2 apparently are like, I don't know if like renditions or re-renditions, but they deal with previous characters from previous books, and it's like they're you know, new versions of this character or of these characters, or they're countering, you know, the previous character stories, right? And then the last one, I can't even remember what the last one, the back of the book doesn't even do that much explaining of sort of what the book's about, and most of, especially those last 2, there aren't even like a lot of ratings that I see of the book or reviews online, so I don't know that I'll necessarily get into them quick, but it is Gilbert Sorrentino, and I am more than willing to take a chance on him. This next stack, these are just kind of 3 random one-offs. They're all interesting, or kind of interesting stories behind them. The first one, and you gotta love a good red cover. I have not read any Percival Everett, but this is Erasure, and this looks extremely funny. I mean, a lot of his books seem like I would like them. So it's basically about this like black academic writer, or you know, kind of more hoity-toity novelist that's not very successful, and he, you know, watches this it's like sort of ghetto lit, this rise in ghetto lit, particularly this one female black author. She writes a book, and then he writes a parody of this kind of, you know, surging genre of fiction that he's not that wild about and that he thinks is exploitative towards black people in the black community. And then once he writes it, no one, you know, like understands that it's satire, and it takes off on a life of its own, and all of a sudden now he's doing the exploiting. It's, you know, it's one of those things. Irony? I don't know. The next one, Swim Upon the Rain by George Saunders. Believe it was right there on the cover. New York Times bestseller, I believe from last year. And if you don't know what this is like kind of just a masterclass on Russian literature short stories within one book. And this one, the reason I'm including this is because this is about the best thing I've ever found at my sort of, whatever you call them, the local little library. You know, the one that's, it's not a mailbox, but it's like 2 mailbox sizes or whatever. It's a couple blocks away from me. And most of the stuff that I ever see in that one especially are, you know, dumb little pulpy novels, or maybe like religious tracts. I'm trying to think. I think I've seen some like Watchtower Jehovah's Witness stuff in there, and then just kind of some mainline other Christianity, vaguely evangelical stuff. It's usually not good or interesting, and that was like actual real literature in it. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it. And it's, you know, I've leafed through, I think, the first 2 or 3, and I don't know, kind of feels like a literature course. And then this one, so this was the YouTube channel, LS is all he goes by. I know him a bit through Discord, but he did a whole video. This wasn't even like the main book that he did it on, but this one sounded more interesting than the one he did on. He did a video on Sven Lindqvist. Lindqvist? Who cares? It's Swedish people don't have real names. Hardy. That's probably how you say his name. This is called A History of Bombing. And the thing that, you know, really turned me onto it, so you can read, you know, it does a chronological order of sort of the history of bomb or warfare from the air. It goes chronologically, but then there's also, you know, he calls it ways into the book, and there's different, they're organized here like thematically. You know, one of the themes is called What is Permissible in War, and I'm assuming that it's vaguely dealing with like war crimes, and others are sort of geographically based, so Hamburg, Auschwitz, and Dresden, obviously, you know, dealing with Germany. They've got a Tokyo one, a Hiroshima one, bombs against independence, the bomb on trial, these types of things. Moving on, this next stack was a series of books that I got. I was recently in Dallas at the flagship Half Price Books on Northwest Highway, and basically anytime I'm home in Dallas I go there, and this is the book that I'm reading now. It's called Paradise by Donald Barthelme. Barthelme, not Barthelme, as some people have felt the need to correct me. And this is, so I just started reading this because, quite frankly, it's almost the exact opposite of what I've been reading, which is The Dawn of Everything by David Graeber and David Wengrow, which is a big, like, 600-page anthropology archaeology book. And this is just a short little funny comic novel, and it's structured as like a male fantasy. A middle-aged man takes a sabbatical from his wife and life and moves into a New York apartment and meets 3 young, gorgeous models, just happens to, and they all decide to immediately move in with him. And then, you know, sort of what follows is very non-male fantasy-esque. Still some male fantasy in there. The next one, found a copy of Nightwood by Djuna Barnes. I've been looking out for this one. Famous modernist book. T.S. Eliot really liked it, about the decadent interwar years. And it's very, my understanding is that it's kind of very disconnected and staccato and maybe a little hard to reconcile the different pieces into the completeness of a story. So it sounds great. Then I found a copy of the Freelance Pallbearers by Ishmael Reed, and I've read, okay, so I've read Flight to Canada? Flight from Canada, I'm not sure. Obviously didn't make that strong of an impression on me. Should be Flight to Canada. That's the only Ishmael Reed that I've read so far, but this was his first novel, and I'm always very interested in first novels, especially of prolific, famous writers. I do want to get, like, I really want to get Mumbo Jumbo or Yellowback Radio Broke Down, which, great title for a book. Just those words together. Sounds chaotic, but that kind of looked like the best one available. And again, first novel. And then finally was a copy of Terra Nostra. And, you know, you can probably see there, $8, man. The spine is a little, there's like 2 hard creases in it, so it's been well loved. But it's one of those big books that I always check the shelves for, you know, this book in particular when I'm in a bookstore. You know, again, $8, really good deal to sort of pick up. And then these last 2 are my recent, well, one more recent than the other. The other was, like, this first one was like at the beginning of the year. A pair of books, and this is what I will say is, in my experience so far, I'm not saying it's comprehensive, I have not been to the Pasadena ones, but I believe Iliad Bookshop is the best bookshop in, you know, Los Angeles County, and I have heard other opinions kind of backing that up. The first copy, or the first book I found was this Robert Coover book, The Adventures of Lucky Pierre, and I like, I think this is Grove Press. I like Grove Press's printings of his book and this kind of candy stripe of it. I have a copy of Prick Songs and Descants, which I am very interested in. And honestly, that'll probably be like the next Coover that I read. And then there is Tom Carson's Gilligan's Wake, and there you go. Kind of see there, not so blurry. And so Gilligan's Wake, obviously, you know, nodding at, gesturing towards Finnegan's Wake. And so my understanding from kind of reading through this and reading a lot of reviews about it is that it's kind of this big fever dream phantasmagoria of like 20th century America, of the American century. And, you know, if you can do Americana right, I'm in. And then finally, this is, I mean, the last book is, you know, the most proud find that I've had this year in book hunting. This comes from the Last Bookstore, which is in downtown Los Angeles, and that's one of the more popular places, and it's really hit or miss. So the Ardent Swarm, that was one of my previous, that was my previous video in which I did about 2 Beekeeper novels. Go see that for my thoughts on it. But these other 2, so I went downtown, my buddy had reason to be down there for some stupid, do you know what the Mars Volta is? It's stupid, but that's why he was down there, because there was some secret release of part of a song that they were doing that he had to wait in line for like 4 hours for. So I went to bookstores and art museums and met up with him later, and I had a great day, and he got very sunburned. But it was really, I had just come back from Dublin, like, you know, the day before, and this was a book that I was searching all over Dublin for, and I found a Dalkey Archive reprint of it. This is King Goshawk, or Goshawk, I believe is how it's pronounced, Goshawk. King Goshawk and the Birds. And this one's about, apparently it's a whole trilogy, but I think they only reprinted the first in it, so if it's good, I may have a real hunt on my hands for, it was, you know, originally like a 1920s, 1930s trilogy. So interested in that. I've been on a bit of a Irish kick lately. I actually am reading through the Elman James Joyce biography right now. And finally, the coup de grace of 2022 so far. Now I will admit, this is what is it, like a book club edition, but nevertheless, it was printed in 1973, so it's a 1973 hardcover edition, you know, with a nice mylar covering of Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. And it was, even for a book club edition, so I'm not like that well versed in editions of books, and, you know, to be fair, this has some shelfware. It has been loved and used, but otherwise it's in a pretty good shape. And if you look on, you know, places like Book Finder and, you know, other places on the internet, even book club editions of these are, you know, going for like at least $100. And this was not $100, let me tell you. And so I absolutely snapped it up, you know, just on the price alone. And so there you go. That was a lot of books. I'm working on a couple other videos right now. I want to do a video on At Swim Two Birds. I want to do something on The Dawn of Everything. If I can figure out, nonfiction stuff is a little harder for me to review because I ultimately feel like an idiot. And it's like whenever you watch documentaries, you watch the documentary and you're convinced you're an expert on it, and it's like, oh no, you need to read much more widely. And so it's like, I read things, you know, about anthropology by David Graeber, and I'm like, oh God, I know for a fact I am not at all well read in this whole field of stuff, and I'm getting one little sliver. Anyway, so that's coming up. I have some mixtapes for the other two Eduardo Galeano books, the Memory of Fire trilogy. So lots of good stuff coming up. Judy fucking sandbagged me this week, man. Work was hard, but fuck you. I decided to do this in defiance of you, Judy. That's not how it should end. Or maybe it is.